Sure, America has a dozen countries now helping attack Moammar Gadhaffi, and yes, President Obama promised to execute a, quote, exit strategy this week. But none of that could have mattered to a pair of young Americans the moment they ditched their F-15 and rode parachutes into the dark desert. For the latest on the closest of calls in this young war, we turn to the only reporter ever to fly a U.S. combat mission. Martha Raddatz has tonight's Target Libya report.
Late last night, the two-man crew of the F-15 Strike Eagle took off from Aviano Air Base, their mission: take out Gaddafi's deadly air defenses in Libya. This is what flying in one of those 40-ton, $60 million fighter jets is like, as I learned when I flew a combat mission in an identical plane in Afghanistan last year. The takeoff in an F-15 is exhilarating, the power indescribable. We rocket up to 20,000 feet in just over a minute. Our aircraft, like all in war zones, laden with thousands of pounds of bombs.
Confirm the hostiles are still in that tree line.
Our mission, a deadly serious one: provide air support for troops on the ground, strafing suspected enemy combatants with 20-millimeter cannon rounds to protect friendly forces. Back to the F-15 in Libya, the moment of crisis came at 11:30 p.m. local time. There is an urgent mechanical malfunction.
There's an element of shock.
Retired Marine Corps fighter pilot Colonel Steve Ganyard has spent more than 4,000 hours in the cockpit.
It's all time compression, your heart's racing, the adrenaline's pumping, and you've gone from focusing on this mission on the ground to saving your airplane and potentially having to get out and land on the ground in enemy territory.
The F-15 goes down in possibly hostile territory, 25 miles east of Benghazi, the city controlled by the opposition. Pilot and weapons officer are forced to eject.
It's a very violent moment. You pull that handle that's between your legs and you're shot up on a rocket about 20 Gs, a big kick in the seat, and you're thrown out into hundreds of miles an hour worth of wind blast, blown, tumbled around, and then all of a sudden quiet as your parachute opens. Now you're coming down in your parachute in this quiet, thinking about, okay, what are the things I need to do?
You've got equipment, you've got radios, you've got maps, you've got all sorts of things, right?
Right, and you have a sidearm, you have personal protection, but these are things that any tactical aircrew has been trained for years. How do you protect yourself? How do you find evasion routes? Where do you sleep at night? All this is just years of training that goes into the automatic mode when these crews hit the ground.
And that is exactly what happened in Libya. Meanwhile, rescue teams had gone into action. At 1:33, Harrier jets patrolling the skies above dropped two 500-pound bombs to secure the area.
The intent of the Harrier pilots dropping this ordnance was not to kill people, it was to warn them off and please stay away from this guy because we're trying to get to him.
The force of the blast injured numerous civilians, but allowed rescue planes and helicopters to approach the downed pilot.
It takes a lot of courage by Air Force, Marine, and Army crews that do this for a living in terms of picking up downed people or rescuing people, but they're every pilot's best friend.
At 2:38 a.m., 3 hours after he went down, the F-15 pilot is rescued. The weapons officer, meanwhile, is protected by friendly local forces and taken to Benghazi, where he is treated to tea and snacks until he is later transferred to an American ship.
27-year-old pilot.
Yeah, pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. It'll be a story that they will get to tell for the rest of their lives, and I'd like to hear stories about having tea with the rebels in Benghazi that weapons system officer that was in the back seat got to experience. A happy ending overall.
The scene of the crash today was almost like a tourist attraction as parents brought their kids to see this hulking piece of American war machinery, its wings and tail fins almost the only recognizable part. The rest burned almost beyond recognition. At first we were scared. We thought it was a Gaddafi plane that would strike us, this man said. Then we saw the plane was on fire, spinning around, and realized it was not a Libyan plane. Still, it is now clear America's role in the war has been far greater than any of the Allies. I'm Martha Raddatz for Nightline in Washington.
Our thanks to Martha for that. And with so many questions swirling over America's role in this fight and how quickly we get out, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton sat down for an exclusive interview with Diane Sawyer.
I think it's moving well. The work that the United States and our allies have been doing to take out the air defense systems will enable the United States to do what we said we would do, which is to fulfill this initial phase and then to transition to the no-fly zone and the work that will be led by our partners.
Will it be NATO?
NATO will be definitely involved because we do have a lot of NATO members who are committed to this process, and they want to see command and control that is organized, but we also are integrating others from outside of NATO. But I'm very relaxed about it, Diane. I think it is, it's proceeding, it's moving forward in the right direction, and we will have what we need in the next few days.
Moammar Gadhaffi. Will this intervention be a success if he's still in power?
Well, I think we have to separate the two sides of the equation, if you will. The United Nations Security Council resolution was very broad but explicit about what was legally authorized by the international community. And we are 100% committed to enforcing it and helping others enforce it. There's nothing in there about getting rid of anybody. It is about protecting civilians, providing humanitarian assistance, but also enabling nations to use whatever means necessary in order to bring that about.